Hi, I'm Mike Hendrickson with O'Reilly Media. I'm here with Mike Loukides with O'Reilly Media as well. Mike, you've been publishing books 20-some years, and I have as well. So editors always have some sort of radar. We're always tracking things, figuring out where things are going. So what's on your radar right now? What are the big things you're looking for?
Okay, well, as we've seen here, data is huge. Data is continuing to be huge. I mean, I think the books that we've published just in the past week on machine learning are going to be huge hits, and I'd love to see more on that. Something that's not here, but which I think is going to be huge, is the whole area of 3D printing and personal manufacturing. I think that has a lot of potential for revolutionizing the way business is done in this country. I don't think if the United States is going to compete with Foxconn, I don't think it's going to be by putting together billion-dollar manufacturing facilities. I think it'll be by licensing to tens of thousands of people, turning out components in small batches on printers in their homes and garages.
Yeah. Well, that would be really interesting.
Yeah, I think that's. Before I was in publishing, I was working for one of the first laser printer companies, and I saw the price of a laser printer go from $70,000 to $25,000 to $10,000. We were the first. My company was the first company to make a laser printer that cost less than $25,000 and less than $10,000, and we got creamed when Apple was the first company to produce a laser printer that costs less than $7,000.
For consumers,
yeah. Yeah, for consumers. Yeah. And now, what are they, 150, 250?
Yeah.
They give away the printers and
sell the ink. Yeah.
And I see 3D printing technology as being on exactly the same curve.
So the first one was the big data space, the second one's kind of the maker space with 3D printing.
Yeah.
Are there other spaces like, I know we have the velocity idea as well. Are there other spaces that you're looking at to figure out where things are going?
Mobile is really important.
Yeah. And devices.
Yes, mobile and devices. And I don't. By devices, it's not just devices like your iPad or my cell phone. I think we're going to see intelligence in almost every kind of device. I mean, Google mentioned a week and a half or so ago that they were doing heads-up glasses with Android in them.
Yeah. Hopefully for I/O. Yeah.
Hopefully, that would be very nice. That would be a good reason to go to I/O.
Yep. So there was a talk this morning. Did you see the Internet of Things talk?
Yeah.
Is that kind of where we're going? Like all these devices we're wearing are going to be connecting to the cloud, and then the data somewhere is going to be shared or used or made accessible for all these devices.
Yeah, I think that's exactly where we're heading. I think one of the bigger issues right now is that there aren't that many devices out there, and there aren't that many devices sensing things that we want. I mean, about a year ago I had a conversation with, I forget the name of the project, somebody at an IBM event who was putting tens of thousands of sensors in the Hudson River to detect water quality. And I said, well, I live in a house with a private well. I want one of your sensors on my wellhead.
Yeah.
And I want one of the sensors on the wellhead of everybody who lives within 20 miles of me who has a private well, so that you can see what's happening. You can see what's happening because things do happen.
Yeah. That would be interesting. So I think that is totally true. The sensors and then connecting them to data that we can all consume. Again, I think it's it'll start with big companies and move down to consumers.
Yeah.
I think we're seeing things like Fitbit and everything that are already there.
Well, Fitbit's certainly part of that trend,
Yeah. So when you dive in on our areas here, and especially let's think about the code area, like for coders and developers, what do you think the clear winners are in the code space right now?
Node.js is huge.
Yeah.
And I don't think we can, as a publishing company, I don't think we can do too much on Node.
Yeah.
And if you're a developer, I think that's something that you need to learn to work with.
So Node is leading me to the question of JavaScript. And you have not been a JavaScript fan until recently. And what changed your thought on JavaScript?
You know, I have to say that in a lot of ways I still don't like the language, but node.js came out, and that really changed what people are doing with the language. It became from a very odd language that was sort of a weird kind of glue that made HTML pages work better, to a language in which you could build huge applications both on the server side and the client side, and applications that actually ran well, performed very well. So node's a huge part of it. There are other things like the D3 library, which is an amazing visualization library for embedding into web pages. It does absolutely beautiful stuff. A lot of things. JavaScript has really just stepped up to the plate in a way that I find totally surprising.
And HTML5 is...
And HTML5 is a clear part of it.
Yeah,
HTML5, calling it HTML5 is almost in a sense wrong, because HTML5 is really more about JavaScript than a half dozen new tags and some new parameters you can use in those tags.
Yeah. Yeah. So, recently Khan Academy announced that their first programming course is JavaScript.
Yeah.
What's the significance of that?
I think that's an extremely smart move. And I've been thinking for a long time, and not terribly successfully, but I've been thinking for a long time about the problem of teaching computing. And the way we teach computing is wrong, sort of at a fundamental level. You go in, almost every programming book tells you how to write a hello world program. You run it on the command line, it types hello world, and nobody wants to do that. What people want to do, my daughter, when she was 8 years old, she said, "Daddy, I want to write a computer game," which actually I wasn't able to help her to do because I don't know how to write computer games, but that we started playing around with some Ruby programming. What people really want to do is make fancy web pages and web applications, and I think if the hook to programming has to be teaching people how to do the kinds of things that they're interested in doing and that they want to do. And what they want to do is not write a terminal application where you start up your terminal application on OS X and type commands on it. I mean, that's so 1970s.
So is JavaScript, though, the right language for this, to teach everyone to program? I mean, I know there are visual tools as well, and there's Scratch, and there's these other tools for newbie programmers, but what is the best intro? Is it JavaScript, or is it Python, or?
Well, I don't think that's quite the right question.
Okay.
I don't think JavaScript is the best language to teach from an academic standpoint, but by the same token, everybody in our generation, and in fact everybody who came along in the 20 or so years after us, learned to program using some form of BASIC, which is a horrible language.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd much rather have somebody learn JavaScript than have them learn BASIC.
Yeah.
The real key is the language needs to support what the learner wants to do. Now, if you want my answer to the question about what is the best language academically, it's probably Python.
Okay.
And there may be some languages coming along in the future. I've always had a hunch that the next important revolution in programming is going to be a language that's completely visual.
Yeah.
Not a language that you type in an editor into an IDE. It'll be completely visual and may look more like Scratch, but I don't know. I haven't been really impressed with anything I've seen along those lines yet.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think that's what we have for today, and maybe next week or the next couple weeks we'll talk about functional languages or something like that as well, because I think there's a big movement there as well. So thank you, Mike.
Okay, well, thanks a lot.
All right, see ya.